it's Cori at the Reset Girl, and it is week 5. Week 5 of the Pocket Art Challenge. Last week's video was a monster. It was like, what was it, like 90 minutes long when it was all said and done. So it's quite the commitment to watch it. But if you haven't seen it, there are timestamps in the description box so that you can zip to something you are interested in within it. And there's a fun little short video that Mark made from it that I just love. I think I'm probably I'm like the biggest viewer of that short, probably. So after the last spread that I did, I have this pocket now to work with. So this is what I have. And I knew going into it when I was going to make, my little fish page that I was going to end up having to work with this. So that's what I knew going into this week. So last time I did that kind of the multiple image version, and I did show in last week's video the different ways you can fill up a more challenging pocket page like this one. So this week I'm going to do the other version I showed you, which was taking one image and breaking it down and popping it in the squares. So let's grab our prompt list, and week 5 we are looking at experiment. That is our prompt. So I was thinking about it, and I don't know about you, how you're doing your challenge, but for me, I love, like, maybe I feel like I'm spending about 2 to 3 days sort of simmering or pondering over each prompt, and kind of like before I sit down and do it, I'm actually working my creative muscles to think, well, how am I going to do that one? So one of the things I remembered about, like doing this single image kind of grid, I started thinking about, well, what kind of work have I done in the past? Like, what if I scrap lift myself? Which I also talked about in last week's video, or the week before. I forget which video, but so I wanted to kind of inspire myself. It was last week's video. So I went through the same junk journal and found an image that scrapbook that I made myself. So this was originally a photo of me on my birthday, and what I did was I was experimenting and I added the honeys into the photo, so it made it look like we were all going out on girls' night. And this is actually one of my very, favorite things I've done. It was kind of fun. I never really thought about putting honeys inserting them into a photo like this, and that kind of inspired me to do that digitally, which is what you've seen me do a couple of the weeks. So I think this is kind of where that idea was born, was when I experimented with this. So I had this photo of myself and a lot of white space to work with. So I think that's what inspired me to think about adding the honeys in there. So I decided that I wanted to take this image and break it down and put it into this pocket, because it's exactly the size that I need to insert into the pockets. So I did this in 2 ways. So one way is you can take one of your pieces of work that you've done and scan it if you have a printer that has a scanning function. So here's what that looks like. Now, the only problem really that I have with this is that often anything I put on there that has a dimension, especially something that is gold foil like these letters here, these chipboard letters, they'll end up coming across very differently in a scan. Here is another version of this work, and this time I photographed this picture and then printed it out, and the gold reflects much better. So this is the image I'm going to work with. I wanted to show you the difference. And now I have this one, which is flat, not dimensional at all, and I'm going to chop it up and put it into here. And you are actually going to see me use a ruler, take a picture. That doesn't happen often. So I know my image is a 6x8, which is what I'm looking for here. And I'm going to have to break it down into some little squares. I kind of talked this out with Mr. Crafty ahead of time, because I don't tend to think I don't tend to think about like, how do you technically do this? That's not really a strength of mine. So I talked it out with him, like what I thought would work, and he agreed that that would be a good method. So that's what I'm going to do. I honestly don't remember how I did it in the past. I try to think about it and I cannot figure out, like, how did I break that really large image of the girl on the beach and broke her down into that into a bunch of squares. I have no memory of this. So what I'm doing here is I am going to flip this over and I'm going to measure out the marks. I'm going to kind of sketch out a grid on the back of this, and then I'm going to cut. Of course, I completely flip these around because I'm Corey. Okay, I'm just here for your entertainment. There we go. Okay, so there's my image and it's all been chopped up. Another way to do this, which is what Mr. Crafty ended up doing for me off camera and like half the time, was he used the paper cutter. I just find that the paper cutter is something of my nemesis and I just can't stand using them. So I would rather have slightly crooked squares and enjoy cutting with my trusty gold scissors than use the paper cutter and be frustrated. So let's get this image into my little pocket. So one thing about doing this is it's also really neat to be able to kind of bring a project back to life, you know, that you really enjoy doing. Sometimes they get tucked into albums and you know, and you forget about them. So if you take the time to look through other things you've done and you really love something you did, here's a way to incorporate it into a new project. So I really love this. I remember, you know, how this really sparked my creativity. It reminds me of the fact that I tried experimenting and it ended up paying off. So I wanted to kind of memory keep one of those examples where I've done that in my life. And I'm going to make another pocket facing it to kind of show off the little prompt itself as I have been doing. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So in my layouts that I've been doing, I have done some where I have a multi-pocket and then a small full pocket. Same thing here. I did a whole spread and then I have this little bitty pocket in between. So I've been kind of doing these like big pages and a little pocket sort of pattern, and I actually really like it. So that's what I'm going to do here. I went ahead and chopped this up. So now this particular page is complete, and that was way quicker, way easier than last week. So I put so much time into last week's. This is where I want to do something of a shortcut. Now I'm going to go ahead and make another baby pocket to create more of a complete spread. And this is where I am going to pull out my little pocket art supply organizer. So I have pre-cut papers in different sizes. All of them are, you know, pocket friendly. I had shown that, talked about that many times in different live streams about the benefits of pre-cutting your paper and getting all of those things done ahead of time. I think that a wood grain would look wonderful with this. So let me double check. Yep, fits nicely in there. So when I was thinking about doing this particular pocket and I was going to do a 6x4, I was thinking about another time I've experimented and it really paid off and I loved what I did and I continue to love it. And that is when I tried doing the kind of like little punched pieces, doing little like paper piecing, creating little collages. And one of my favorite collages is made with little squares. So I have one of my little paper square buffets, and these have all been punched with a 1-inch punch. I've punched a variety of things, scrapbook paper, all kinds of different types of paper. Here's some glitter paper, which makes a really fabulous addition. And I had these tucked away in a little plastic envelope. These are something I had punched during a live stream as an example of how I do this. And I love these particular squares so much. I've just been waiting to use them in a project, and I think today is that day. So I am going to set these up. I might need to punch more. I was trying to decide how big of a grid I want to make, and I think going 3 across is a really good. I love this color green. However, I think I want to pick a different type of paper that is also green because that color was just wonderful. This is one of my favorite things to do, is just play with paper and kind of move the pieces around and until my eye is just very happy with what I have. It's so fun. I find this to be one of my favorite crafty, creative exercises. I absolutely love doing this. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use this space right here to put my prompt. So I'm going to leave this here for a minute and work around it so I can kind of gauge where I need to start gluing pieces down. The grid is my all-time favorite shape to work with. So I'm just going to mess around with my paper until I find some other colors or patterns that really stand out to me. This particular one came from like a magazine. So the pieces have this lovely orange and the pink, which is like my favorite color combination. So when I have these kind of laying around, it kind of gives me an idea of like, what am I missing? What colors need to be part of this little collage? So I know that ledger's a favorite of mine. So bringing in some ledger, that's really cute. This is from some piece of scrapbook paper. It has the little word hot. There's my mustard yellow, which I tend to include everywhere. So I'm going to keep playing with this. Sometimes my pictures, like this was obviously the image that I was punching, but sometimes some random thing will be on the backside, and sometimes that can be more interesting than what I was originally going for. It's obviously like a woman's foot with part of her T-strap sandal right there. So just a thought. I don't tend to have more than one girl in a spread. I think every honey needs her own moment in the sun. So if I end up liking one of these more, I will take this little girl out. She does bring some color to the page. So I'll just let sometimes it becomes a competition. Sometimes letters, words, letters, this can end up being something that's really fun. So now I'm going to replace dream, or I'm going to replace hot with dream. I'm going to keep going. I'm just pulling. Ooh, I like a gold glitter. I think I'm going to move that in there. And so I can kind of see that if I kind of work a little, move these up, I can get one more row down here. And sometimes what I like to do so that it's not an overwhelming exercise is I like to focus on the color and pattern almost as like a secondary thing. So I'm just laying out what catches my eye color-wise, and then I'm going to start moving them around the grid. I feel like pink is what is missing. That's a possibility, but let me keep looking. What other pink paper do I have in here? There's different shades of pink. I also love that. That would probably replace the ledger, but I do love a good ledger. If I take this out, then it feels... Let me move that pattern up there. Oh, that's too close. Maybe... Let me decide. I'm trying to decide if I like the map. I might have a better piece of map. That's a fun piece too. That's really neat. Let me see about using that one. It's almost like a game, you know, like a fun puzzle. I kind of wonder if this one is like a punched piece that obviously once it said receipt. Oh, okay. I think I like this girl more than this one because she's more prominent and she has the best outfit on. She's got a mustard top with these kind of teal beads. And as you know, it's always about the outfit. It's nothing personal. So I am thinking, I also like the way she's looking down, which makes putting the prompt here even more kind of special. So I just think that looks so delicious. Now, this is kind of competing with my eye a little bit. So I also don't really know what I'm going to do as far as putting the prompt down here. I don't know if I'm going to use some kind of backing paper. I haven't figured that part out. So I think I feel, let me see, I'm trying to decide. It's really fun to look at squares in this way. Some of my squares are imperfect, like this one. It has a ripped edge, which actually makes it visually interesting, like that. So it's got like an imperfection built into it, which is fun because grids are normally extremely perfect, right? That's the nature of a grid. So it's kind of fun to have a little something that is imperfect. Okay, so I gotta find the right piece. Okay, so I think I'm going with this layout right here. No ledger. That's unusual for me, but I think I like it. Do I like this better though? Oh, see, every time you think you're done, let me just test this. I mean, it's in principle, it's a very similar. You have a cream and kind of mustard together, and I feel like they're similar, just kind of a different format. And it's kind of fun that it has that little feature. kind of like that better. I think it's more visually interesting. And while I'm at it, I do know that I have some other squares that come from this particular paper, so I want to dig through here. I saw them a couple seconds ago. I saw them a couple minutes ago. Here's another type of square that I love, where you have part of the text, part of the I don't know what they, if there's a name for that little strip. But to me, it's like a little marketing strip. It's a little product strip where they can add the UPC code and the name of the collection. Well, I love incorporating those into my squares. I just think it just adds this quirkiness. So here's another one. I just saw a really good one though. Okay, so I just went on a rescue operation trying to find the other pieces of this particular paper that I have, seeing if I had one I liked more. And I kind of think this one is really neat. This is actually showing that it's a sewing pattern a little bit more visually than the other. I also found this little square. This was a square that I had already started punching from. It was part of a bigger piece, and I decided to include the little tiny star as part of it. So I deliberately did that, which is really fun as another like extra element. I also replaced the previous square here with this one because I did love the fact that it has the teal and the pink. And I'm going to just do a couple little, I don't know, kind of see maybe that break it up a little better. Okay. I do like that. All right, so those were the little last second swaps that I did off camera, and I am going to put all these back. It's so fun. I don't know if I'll ever get tired of making grids. I just think it's piecing the little papers together is such a fun exercise. It exercises your little creative muscles, and it helps you decide what you like as far as a color palette goes, or how quirky you want to be. So the only thing I need to do now is glue these in place, and the fact that they're, need to get them into somewhat of a nice looking grid. So they will complement, echo the grid I have over here, and then I'll use this as a placeholder for my little prompt. So let me get to gluing. So one of the benefits of using glue stick over like a tape runner for this is that there's wiggle room. You still have a little bit of time to like gently adjust anything before that glue sets up. So that's one benefit I like of using a glue stick as your adhesive, because you have an opportunity to fix anything you don't love. So here would also be, just as an example, another opportunity would be to embellish any of your little squares, that you want to, using something tiny like the little stars. So I like doing that. I also love using even tinier squares. These are like my little teeny baby squares. And sometimes using one of these kind of elevates the design. So I am going to do that because I just did it now and I like it. So let me test it on everything else. Do I like that better? Do I like this? Do I like that? I think it stands out a lot more on the teal. And just as a comparison, these are my little baby punch, my baby punched squares, and then here's the larger ones. So these are 1-inchers, and I actually don't remember. I want to say they're, let me see if I can tell. It looks like they're like a 1/2 inch. They're half of the width of a regular square. So these end up being great for these little smaller pockets, you know, working on a much smaller little canvas, like a 2x2 square, a 3x3, a 3x4. So, and then using them as an embellishment on top of that can be really fun. So I just wanted to show that to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this little piece here. I like adding it to an edge rather than centered. Makes it more fun. And then I stamped this one with the date, so that takes care of using that as like my record keeper, what day it is. Okay, so I'm looking in here. I have this little bin and it's got things like tickets in it. I was kind of thinking maybe I would, you know, put a ticket down and then put my word strip on top of it. So my word strip is, I'm going to use my Dymo label, which is like it has a wood grain, so something that's darker. So I need to put something lighter so it will pop. Here's one of our, this is one of our little die cuts. Okay, so I'm going to try different things here. It's a pretty good size. I have authentic tickets in here. I have others that are not art. Here's a swimming club student ticket. That's fun. That's authentic. Real vintage. So I'm going to keep digging around. It's kind of like it's like a little treasure hunt, really, when you look through a place where you've tucked away good stuff. I'm trying to see what other variations of color I have to work with. Here's another one. So I could go with the light green. I'm trying to decide which one I like more. I think I kind of like the yellow more. I wouldn't say that's more contrasted with the other things, but let me see. There's a light blue ticket here. Whitney's Playland on the Beach. Lots of possibility. I didn't realize how many tickets I had in here. The Gaiety Theater in Baltimore, Maryland. That one's kind of there's this one. This one's very bright. This is one of ours that we bought recently. I feel like that's too kind of matchy-matchy with the background. So far, it's either going to be this. We also have Cincinnati Gardens Snack Bar Special. The thing is, though, that what's going to happen is once I put my word strip, it's pretty much going to go in the middle. I think that this one will be good. So, or is it, do I want to use my own and put my project and put it right there and it says Crafty Girl? I hear little voices in my head. I hear my friends that are willing me to pick the right one. I don't know. I'm going to make the word strip and see if that helps make my decision anymore. So, okay. So I'm going to spell out the word experiment. That might clinch it. I remember when I got one of these, I think I was in the 5th grade, and it was like, it was very trendy. All the girls wanted a Dymo label maker. No idea. It's really funny when you think about things that become popular. But I really, really wanted one, and I got one for, I want to say it was probably Christmas I got it. And I just put labels on everything. So this is very nostalgic, playing with my little label maker. Okay, so this is what it would look like. Which I think, is that better? Is blue better? Blue's kind of, it's not really on the board much when you think about it. It's kind of an outlier color at the moment. And then I have red. But the fun thing about that ticket, which just says snack bar special, is going to get completely covered over. So let me go back to the original one that I was thinking of. Okay, I kind of think that this is the one. So I'm going to attach her there. Since it's only sticking to paper and nothing else, I'm not going to put glue on it. It should be fine. It's kind of ancient Dymo label. It's from the 80s, so I'm not sure about its staying power. This is a slightly narrower than the space I need to fill, but I think that it kind of tricks the eye. I don't think you can really tell, and that's really fun. Okay, so collect all my little tickets. Okay, so now I'm going to bring out those dots I was using last week and use them to kind of like bolt down. You know that look where you put them on either side and it looks like you're sort of bolting down the item. I just need to find the right color, which I'm pretty sure this green is going to be perfect. So there's one on that side and one on the other. That's what I think of when I see these. It looks like it's kind of bracketing or bolting down, and maybe that's the whole point of these little guys. So it's dated, it's bolted, and it's going to go in a pocket. So I will have a complete spread, and I think that's really fun that it's echoing the grid as well. So last week I mentioned that, I had to put washi on here to adapt a different pocket to a ring binder. This is a disc bound page. Of course, after I made the video, I ended up finding my ring bound planner pages, the pocket pages, I should say. And, but I'm not going to change it. I already went to that much work. So I just need to pick a washi. So I got to decide. Probably need something a little bit darker that will kind of cover, not be too transparent. I'm pretty sure this one might work. It's kind of a blue. It matches the blue of this honey's dress. I think it's opaque enough that it will stand up to being used like this. And I kind of feel like that's the perfect one. So I'm going to trim it up here. And then I'm going to use my little single punch, hole punch, and punch the washi. Okay, so putting this in here together. And I've been sticking my prompt sheet in this little full-size pocket back here so it doesn't get lost. And then that is what I have, which, let me make sure. Can you see? Is it glary? That looks better. So now you can see my fun little pockets. And I absolutely love this one the most. I would use that as a cover for a notebook. It's amazing. So I definitely encourage you to experiment with this particular prompt. And I hope you have fun doing so. Try something you haven't tried. Scrap lift from yourself. Get ideas about things that you've done in the past and maybe kind of tweak them, kind of use them as a springboard for a different concept, use different paper. That's one way of doing it. You have some ideas of how you can experiment, like using a technique, use watercolor, sketch, or doodle, things that you might not ordinarily do. And that would fulfill the prompt. So I'm really happy with how this came out. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody. Da, 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 da. Hmm. Have a good show, everybody. Have a good show, everybody. I can't tell if those are even on the same. Cut all this part out here, what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to figure this out. This doesn't even seem like I put the marker in the right place. Went to match them up that they didn't match. And I was like, of course, that's why I don't use rulers. As a comparison, I just lost the piece I was working with. Oh, my Lanta. How did that happen? Oh, I found it. Okay, I found it. Let's just edit all that out, Mark.